All of us reach a point in time where we are depleted and need to somehow find a way to reignite the fire within. But how do we spark that flame? Welcome to Reignite Resilience, where we will venture into the heart of the human spirit. We'll discuss the art of reigniting our passion and strategies to stoke our enthusiasm. And now, here are your hosts, Natalie Davis and Pamela Cass.
Welcome back to another episode of Reignite Resilience. I am your co-host, Natalie Davis, and I am so excited to be back with all of you. And joining us, of course, is Pam Cass. How are you, Pam?
I am fantastic. We're just coming off of a long holiday weekend, and you and I were just laughing. We were like the complete opposite this weekend. I was out in the fray, like doing all the crazy things, thinking it was going to be relaxing. And it always sounds good in theory. Oh, let's bike down and get breakfast and then bike back and let's go paddleboarding with the thousands of other people that are going to be at the reservoir. And just sounded good at the moment. And then I was like, gosh, I should have done what you did.
Oh my gosh. No,
better.
Absolutely. I did everything that you could do to avoid crowds. I actually had some things that I had to do running out and about on Wednesday and noticed like the uptick of traffic. And I was like, yep, I'm done. I'm going to get it all done on Wednesday and you can find me at home.
I'll be enjoying home. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So I did the opposite, but it was good. It was still a lovely weekend nonetheless. And I did not get to interact with as many people as you did. So good on you.
Yes. Now I need the time to recover from the interaction. As an introvert, I can't be around too many people for too much time. So now I'm just gonna, just relax for the next month or so.
Well, I have a pretty crazy travel schedule, so that's probably why I took this time to recharge. I was like, I don't need to go out. It's fine.
Very smart.
Oh my goodness. Well, we have a guest joining us. I know that our listeners are probably just wondering how many of these one-on-ones are we going to get with just Pam and Natalie, and what are they talking about? But we have a fabulous guest today that is going to share their story and journey and promoting a book as well. So I'm really excited. Pam, I'll just turn it over to you. Why don't you let our listeners know who's joining us today?
Yes, I'm excited for this one. So today we have Katie Baker. She is a writer, advocate, and a childhood abuse survivor who has transformed her journey of trauma and healing into a story of resilience, empowerment, and hope. After years of battling addiction, shame, and the lingering effects of a tumultuous childhood, she has found profound transformation through therapeutic psychedelics, deep inner work, and spiritual exploration. In her memoir, When the Universe Holds Your Hair Back, Katie shares her raw and deeply personal journey. Welcome. We are so honored to have you with us. And we're going to hand it over to you. You've got a new book. Kind of share with us your journey.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here, and it has really been a journey, but so worth all the effort and time. I decided to write a book, actually a memoir about my use of therapeutic psychedelics and healing from childhood trauma. When I found myself at 47 years old, really struggling, I was successful from all outside appearances. However, the outer exterior did not match my inner reality and was silently struggling for years, thinking that I was, or willing myself to be okay. And so I sort of found myself at this crossroads when my kids were leaving for college, and realized that I really had to take some dramatic steps to right all the wrongs, not only in the way that I was living, but address some of the things that I had been in denial for years, basically. Yeah.
Interesting.
Wow. And was it just in that season where you realize like all things just come to a head? We and you just said this is it. We need to face everything head on.
Yeah, yeah. And I think what had happened was that when I had my first child, there was a couple things that happened. Number one, I was really nervous about having children based on my own childhood. However, my husband and I both determined that we are going to break the generational cycles that had really crippled a lot of our family. And so we raised both children in the same home. I mentioned in the book, like I had moved 20 to really it's 30 times. I'd said 20, but I had moved quite a bit and we were determined that we were going to give them as much of a normal life as we possibly could. And so when my son was 18 and my daughter was 20, it was almost, and there's a series of events that sort of transpired, but it was almost as if I could fall apart. Like my job of mother was completed. And I mentioned in the book, we were at a family reunion. I come from a long line of drinkers. And so we had been drinking all day. And we were sitting by the fire pit. My son was 18 years old. And it was just he and I. And he turned to me and he said, Mom, you've had a really rough childhood. And I think the whole family can see that you are hurting and you really need to take a year, or he suggested you take a year and just really heal yourself. You've done an amazing job raising us. Now it's our turn to support you so that you can kind of come home to yourself. And that conversation really flipped the switch because I was mortified, I guess, that my children could see. I thought I was covering it up well, but it got progressively worse, especially when I knew that they were going to be leaving. And so that critical conversation really, I think it really saved my life. So.
Wow, that's incredible. And you said you were on the outside, probably other people other than your family had no idea what was going on.
No.
How are you holding that together? Because that's a lot to keep inside and try to just go about the motions of life.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's one of the things that when you're highly functioning, but you've had all this trauma, I think me in particular, and potentially others, are really crafted at hiding and wearing masks and saying we're okay and doing all the things that we're supposed to do and seeking perfectionism or doing all the things that we're supposed to do. For me, it was in an attempt to make things right. That if I worked hard enough, if I mothered well enough, if I did, a job well enough, that my pain, shame, guilt, all the despair that was within me would be righted. However, that was not working. It really was just a false sense of identity. And also, I think in our society, oftentimes what I see is people just say, I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm doing great. And you're like, "Ugh, you don't look great, but you don't ask, right? Or we don't have these honest conversations that really open doors for people to be honest and express their truth and what they're really experiencing.
Mhm. So when this kind of came to head, kids are
Mhm.
18, 20. What were some of the things that started to happen that you noticed? I feel like almost like it started to unravel a little bit for you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was totally unraveling. We had a suicide in the family, which was really devastating. So there was that coupled with my daughter leaving for college, or she had already left, but we're in the midst of a pandemic. Like it was the perfect storm. I started a couple nonprofits. I was just overworking. I would just sit in my room every night, kind of hide myself behind my bedroom door and just drink by myself and watch, shows. And that was on repeat. And then every morning I would wake up with shame. That was my first thought every single day was like, I overate, I overdrank, I wasn't good enough yesterday. I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I did that. I didn't do that right enough. So there was so much judgment that was a cyclical pattern. And it was all I knew.
Yeah.
Mm.
Just became normal for you.
Yeah, totally.
Well, kudos to your son for the level of emotional intelligence that he has, right? In order to take that moment and courage, to talk to mom to say, "Hey, take some time for yourself." Like he probably recognized and realized in that setting more than he had in the past, to bring that to your attention. But before you take us on that portion of your journey, let's go back a little bit to your childhood because you mentioned just the childhood and the generational pieces that you're bringing with you. Talk to us a little bit about your childhood and where all of this people pleasing and getting affirmation and confirmation from other people. Where did that start? Where did that stem from for you?
Yeah, you know, I write in the beginning of the book, it was almost really hard to chronicle my childhood story because we had moved so much. There was marriages. So in particular, my mom was married 5 times. My biological dad had, different children from different women. So it was really hard even to to label these chapters. So almost every chapter is a short story because it's pretty complex.
Right.
And just had multiple, my biological father gave me up for adoption when I was 2 to my stepfather. There was sexual abuse for years. There was really clear signs. I got, my mom immediately, thank God, took me to the police department when there was just absolutely no question. But the signs were there over the years, and she just didn't even think that that was possible. And so, uh, I know a lot of, sexual abuse survivors in particular don't necessarily have that safety net. Thank God that I got removed from that. But then, my mom remarried to a guy that was very, very verbally, physically, emotionally abusive for many years. And I think my brother and I were both extremely fearful of being honest with her. Plus, she was the breadwinner, so she worked a lot, and we felt guilt around that. So, and just put in situations that were unsafe, very unsafe, not typical, and um, and so it was really interesting, Pam, to your point, like friends that I've been friends with for 30 years, when they read my book, they were like, I had no idea. So that's the masking part, right? That we become very talented at doing, and you know, we were always with my family, we were, sort of rural Oregon, grew up, country roots. You buck up, you deal with it. You don't look back. You're not weak. You keep going. You do all the things and look like you've got it together. And I was really successful at hiding. I think that was actually my biggest strength, was hiding all of that from even some of my closest friends that had no idea. So,
It was like your coping mechanism
oh
is
yeah.
just, yeah, to almost like it didn't happen. So,
Mm.
Yeah.
okay.
And
Hmm.
then this all comes to a conversation you have around the fire with your son.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the days after that, not that longer step, but like just in that moment. How are you processing that? What are you feeling? And what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. It was really interesting because both my son and daughter came to me at different times. My daughter had said, you're really not here anymore. You're not present.
Mhm.
When, maybe it's better if I just go back to college early. So they both had their own interventions with me. In particular, when both of them addressed it, and my husband as well, I was embarrassed. I was like, oh my gosh, nobody's supposed to know. I'm hiding this. And now, my closest, the people I love are aware of what I'm going through and what I'm doing to myself. And so my son, he had some friends of his, their parents had done psychedelics. And so when at the fire pit, my son, I said, maybe I should go back to talk therapy and do that again, because I had really tried all the traditional modalities in an attempt to heal. But I was too far gone, I'll tell you, because I would get trained therapists to talk about their own childhood, just so I didn't have to talk about mine. Um, and so anyway, he just said to me, Mom, what about psychedelics? What about using ayahuasca? And I was like, I had a lot of fear around that.
Mm,
So, but it did open the door. Like it was a glimmer. And so I was like, I got to research this. There's a reason that he said this. And I was so, I would say emotionally bankrupt and detached that I was recognizing that for me in particular, I had to take a different form of healing because what I was doing was not working.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you do the research about the psychedelics, and then what did that journey look like?
Yeah, so it was about 6 months still where I just was thought about it and then ended up asking a friend of mine in a different state if he could help me just do a small amount of psilocybin because I had all that trepidation and nervousness. And it's so interesting because I would drink all the time, right? Like
Right.
alcohol was fine, but psilocybin in particular made me really nervous. And so I tried it, and then I recognized in that experience in particular, what had happened was I was kind of could sense and feel things, but a dark figure just I could feel something just standing right next to me. And at that point I took off my eye mask and I was like, he said, "Do you want to go check out the garden?" And so I was like, "Yeah, let's do that." So I ch go and check out the garden, but I had recognized that there was something there, like a heavy weight.
Mm.
And at a later ceremony, that there was really a beautiful moment where that sort of that heavy weight came to me, and it was probably one of the most transformative experiences in using psychedelics. So it was like I slowly had to open the door, do all the research, talk to facilitators. I didn't know how to get involved with the community, and so I did a lot of research. We just wanted to make sure I was safe.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Mhm.
And this opens up the door then to your own opportunity to reflect and really the beginning of your journey. After that experience, what are some of the things that you incorporated or implemented into your life to kind of help you stay on it, right? Because you can have this great experiential moment and then get back into your everyday and it's back to normal. Everything
Mm.
else shifts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can do that. That's another coping mechanism, and especially when you're gifted at those coping mechanisms,
Yes.
they come in
Yes.
handy. Um, so I think that for me in particular, one thing I noticed in that first ceremony was that there were all these insects or all these, life was happening all around me, and there was so much beauty and I was failing to see it. I couldn't notice it. I wasn't able to receive love. There was, it was like this hardened shell. So it definitely, I did a ceremony, as I talk about in the book, every 4 to 6 weeks. I coupled that with integration therapy. So I basically treated it like a full-time job. And because I was a tough case, I would say that it took me about 6 months, but I really feel like I was so detached from any idea of my truth, my worth, my possibility, that's why it took me, 6 months into really integrating all those tools, all the gifts, all the lessons that come with these medicines in particular.
Can you share with us what one of those ceremonies look like?
Yeah, so for example, there's one in Costa Rica where you can go to facility. They have a gorgeous place there, and what you do is you really focus on connecting with your body, connecting with your emotions. That was another thing that was really I had a hard time. I was like, I don't know how I feel. I don't think about that. Or my body. That was a big lesson in itself too. And so we really you really take yoga, you take breath work, you go to classes, you do integration, you set intentions. So the actual ceremony is really about setting an intention, going in there with a purpose. It is sacred medicine and you treat it with respect. It's not like Woodstock or something like that, what people envision. So the next, after you go through the ceremony with ayahuasca in particular, you can purge, and that means in that type of ceremony you can actually rid of whatever is keeping you stuck.
Wow.
And then integration in the morning. And I think really it's quite beautiful because you're around other people that have these incredible life stories too, that are also struggling, that you build community through this shared experience. And I think one last thing that I think of that is so beautiful is when I went there, I had no idea what people did for work. I did, or sometimes I didn't even know their name, but I did know what they were struggling with, or what that was going right for them, or just how their marriage was going, or just the deeper conversations that sometimes we're lacking. I feel like when we cross people in the grocery store or whatever, right? It's like, what do we do for work is at the forefront, or our name, or our status, as opposed to who are we in this body, and are we kind, are we good, are we loving to ourselves, that kind of thing.
What,
Yeah.
so you said it was about 6 months of doing those experiences. What was it like between that very first one where you said there was like a dark figure to that last one that you did?
Yeah, this journey actually chronicled a year, but I mean 6 months for me to start really kind of waking up. Unfortunately, unfortunately, I feel like healing meets you where you're at.
Yeah.
So there was a big purpose to that in particular. But the first one, I was walked in there with trepidation. I was so nervous. An ayahuasca ceremony, I was just like a bundle of nerves that people were going to see, like the shaman was going to go, oh my gosh, that girl is a hot mess. But they did not. They did not. And it was like compassion and love and acceptance, and just meeting you and holding you in a really safe space, and in a really safe way.
Wow.
And so a lot of trepidation, and then the nerves would ease as I saw, like, I am making my way out of this dark night of the soul. And so there was forward progress, but the way I set it up, and the reason I wrote the book, is I lovingly referred to this as a year of healing, because it was a dedicated year where I was just determined. And that what's interesting is I've been successful in my life, and however I approached it, as like, you're going to do one every 4 to 6 weeks. It was so interesting because I set up healing just how I ran my life. Like, let's get this done. And that's not necessarily recommended, because it does take a while to integrate. And yeah. And
but
just
there's a
get
certain
beautiful.
personality type out there that can relate to that, right?
Absolutely.
It's like, I need to heal. I'm going to go ahead and schedule that for Thursday.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm 47 years old. I did not want to be dealing. I mean, I wanted to see an end point. I didn't want to be holding on to this drama, and, I wanted to move forward.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today on the Reignite Resilience podcast. We hope you had some aha moments and learned a few new real-life ideas to fuel the flames of passion. Please subscribe on your favorite streaming platform, like or download your favorite episodes, and of course, share with your friends and family. We look forward to seeing you again next time on Reignite Resilience.